Hello, welcome to Bolt Gun Tactics. My name is Dale and I'm here to take you through my first ever RTT win. So this RTT was held by Raptor Tabletop Gaming here in Birmingham. So while deploying, I thought I'd go through my list. So the main bulk of my list is 3 blobs of accursed cultists which contain the dark communes. They're really difficult to shift because they have the 5+ invuln and the 6+ feel no pain. There are 21 models in the unit, so I generally just try and clog up objectives with them. They can hit hard on one turn, as they have an ability where you can advance charge, +1 to hit and +1 to wound, so they can be quite nasty, but generally they're just annoying. For the rest of my list, I've got 4 units of regular cultists who can sticky objectives. I've got 4 units of legionnaires, 3 units of chosen, and 3 rhinos to transport some of those guys, and Cypher. Terence, my opponent, was playing demons. He had a Bloodthirster, a Great Unclean one with the Endless Gift, which gives a 4+ feel no pain. Had Lord of Change, Scarbrand, Nurglings, Pink Horrors, Plague Bearers, a big unit of Blood Crushers, 2 units of Flamers, and 2 units of Screamers. So as you can see, I'm just putting down my first blob of accursed cultists here. I've put down 3 units of regular cultists just to try and screen out my backfield. This is because demons have an army rule where they can basically lift up 2 units and bring them back down again every turn. So I thought I need to screen out that backfield to stop him getting behind my army. Terence had kept both his Bloodthirster, Scarbrand, and his regular Bloodthirster in reserve, along with 2 units of Flamers. Also, I'd kept 1 Rhino, which contained 2 Legionnaires, into reserve. I wasn't too worried about how he's deploying because I knew after his first turn he can just lift up 2 units anyway and bring them back in from reserves in his next turn. With my deployment, I've placed 3 units of a curse, so each one could go and start contesting objective, maybe get some turn 1 charges in. Like I said before, the cultists were screening out. I've positioned the rhinos so that they're in places so the legionnaires can come out, because they get 3 inches disembark, and then obviously 6-inch move. If it's chosen, they can 3-inch disembark. Then they've got their regular 6-inch move. They can also advance and charge, so it gives them quite a long threat range. So I've tried to position the rhinos where I can move them up behind cover and disembark my units and charge straight into combat. And finally for me, Cypher was right in the middle, in that middle rhino, so he could come out as close as he could to the central objective, but also be in cover to give out his 12-inch ability, which increased the cost of any stratagems which are played within that 12 inches, which is extremely annoying and extremely useful, depending on obviously which side of the table you're on. So the mission is Terraform, which is basically taking hold, but you get the option to do an action on the objectives and score an extra 2 points from that objective for the rest of the game. And then the mission rule was swift action, I believe, which allows you to advance and do actions with battle line, which is good for me because I had lots of battle line. So Terence drew no prisoners and engaged on all fronts for his first 2 secondary objectives. He's moving up his Screamers and his Blood Crushers. He moves out his Nurglings just onto that, turn onto that objective, and moves out his other Screamers over so he can achieve engage on all fronts. I don't think he was too worried about scoring no prisoners. I'm not sure why he didn't burn it. I think that rounds up the end of his turn, which brings us on to my turn. So one of my dark communes has the enhancement Despot's Claim. It's only 15 points, and it gives you an extra command point on a 5+, unless you are within 12 of the enemy's deployment, which gives you the same thing on a 4+, which is quite useful. Nice little points filler in Renegade Raiders. So I drew no prisoners and Mark for Death. Mark for Death is extremely difficult to achieve on the first turn because obviously you're going to pick 3 units which are hidden away or very difficult to get to. So I burnt that one for 1 CP, and I drew Sabotage, which I was happy with. So Sabotage, because I've got so many units, it was easy enough just to do with a cultist unit, I believe, in that middle building. And then I was quite happy about no prisoners because my accursed cultists do have the once per game ability where they can advance and charge. Renegade Raiders also has a stratagem for advance and charge for 1 CP. So I was quite confident that I was going to be able to score no prisoners. So I'm moving up my accursed cultists. I was trying to charge those Nurglings. I was hoping to charge the Blood Crushers and also those Screamers on the right hand side. I would like to have thought that I would have been able to wipe out all 3 of those units in combat. The accursed cultists on the left hand side have moved up to tag that objective, and the Rhino on the left I moved up so that the Legionnaires and Chosen inside would be in a good position to charge out, counter-charge anything that tries to contest that objective. And the Rhino in the middle, Cypher popped out so he could give his bubble, his aura, because he can't give that out in a transport. And then again, the Rhino is positioned to disembark troops to support the middle. I think I left the cultists pretty much where there were the 3 units of cultists at the back, and that was again just to screen him out from getting into my deployment zone. My shooting phase didn't add up to much because I've not really got much else other than pistols and rhinos to shoot with. I made my first charge into the Blood Crushers with the accursed, which also triggered their ability for the +1 to hit, +1 to wound. I charged the Legionnaires into the Screamers. I was hoping to kill definitely the Screamers and really damage that unit of Blood Crushers. And then I also charged into the Nurglings, which was an almost certainty that I would wipe those guys out. I also used the advance and charge stratagem with the Legionnaires. I think I just forgot to take the CP off until a little while afterwards. So I wasn't really too worried about the Great Demon of Tzeentch because it's better at shooting than it is in combat. It was also kind of move blocked by the terrain and the Blood Crushers and the amount of models I had. The Great Unclean one I was a little bit worried about because he can be very difficult to take down. He has 4+, got 4+ invuln, 4+ feel no pain. I think it's something like 20 wounds and toughness 11, so he's very, very difficult to take down. And also demons, once they get below half and have to start taking battle shock, they can actually regain wounds if they're in their Shadow of the Warp, I believe it's called. So I started to resolve the combat with the Blood Crushers first. Terrence still had 2 CP, so I didn't want him to interrupt and do a lot of damage to that unit of Accursed. So I managed to take down 3 of the Blood Crushers, and then we moved on to the Legionnaires and the Screamers, which I managed to take down 2 of them, and the last one was left with 1 wound, I believe, which was rather annoying because I only got 2 points for no prisoners. Didn't where I was hoping to max it out, but at least killing the Screamers and then the Nurglings. It was a little bit surprising because Legionnaires, the way I've got them equipped, I do have the last cannon in there, but they've got a combat weapon, 2 chainswords, and basically 2 power fist equivalents in there, so it should have been enough to take down the Screamers. I thought the Nurglings were easily killed, and then I just consolidated those Accursed so that they were really, really taking over that objective. So then Terrence resolved his attacks back with the Blood Crushers. Obviously, you only had 3 models left to attack back with. They do hit quite hard, but Cursed Cultists are, again, very tough to take down. The reason for this is obviously the 5+ invuln, then the 6+ feel no pain. And also, you can choose where to allocate the damage. So I usually take the damage on the little guys, which just have 1 wound. They're pretty much ablative wounds for the big guys, really. In the next turn, Terence drew Marked for Death and Containment. He, same as me, he decided to burn Marked for Death because it's very difficult to achieve early on, and he wouldn't have achieved it. I think I chose all units in Rhino, so it would have been difficult for him. He then drew Overwhelming Force, which was a little bit easier, because all you got to do is kill a unit off an objective. So Terence, he starts to fall back his Screamer. On the right is Lone Screamer. He then falls back his Blood Crushers away from the Accursed because he knew that they would probably finish off the unit in combat as I'd get to attack first. He then moves around his Screamers in order to charge that unit of Accursed Cultists. The Great Unclean one comes in with a Deep Strike 9 inches away. Bloodthirster comes in, and I believe Scarbrand drops in as well next. But at this point, I was feeling like I was potentially going to lose those 2 blobs of Accursed Cultist. Also, he used his stratagem where he can do a 3-inch Deep Strike, but he can't charge after it. And I was a little bit worried because I thought he was just going to shoot into my cultist at the back and make a hole so he can Deep Strike later in the game. He's just measuring up for Scarbrand now. So another one. So potentially Great Unclean one and 2 Bloodthirsters into my Accursed Cultist, which probably wouldn't last that sort of onslaught, especially not from the 2 Bloodthirsters. So Terence also brings in both of his units of Flamers in order to try and score Containment for 6 points. So they've got to be outside your deployment, so that's why he's pushed them quite close up to my units. So he now starts shooting with the Great Demon of Tzeentch, which was surprisingly good at shooting and managed to wipe out those Legionnaires, which scored him Overwhelming Force. He then did a little bit of shooting with his Great Unclean one, which wasn't that effective, but still managed to do a little bit of damage. But I was mostly worried about the Great Demon of Tzeentch because I thought that can just drop down and wipe out my smaller units wherever it wants with a 3-inch Deep Strike. He made his charges with the Screamers and the Great Unclean one. He also made his charge with Scarbrand and failed with the Bloodthirster. A little bit of combat, didn't kill too many, I wasn't too concerned. I managed to hit back and do some damage to some of his units. Managed to kill 2 of his Screamers, take some wounds off the Great Unclean one, and some wounds off of the of Scarbrand, the Bloodthirster. So at the start of my turn 2, I draw Containment and Defend Stronghold. Containment, I thought that's fairly easy because I've got quite a lot of units and they're already positioned on the flanks. And then Defend Stronghold, I thought I should be able to screen him out because if he does use his 3-inch Deep Strike stratagem, he cannot charge. So as long as I can screen him out 3 inches, then he should not be able to get onto my objective to take my home objective and deny me Defend Stronghold. So I start by moving some of my regular cultists up onto that central objective. The reason behind this is so that I've got a little bit more objective control on that central one so I don't lose it. I then move up my Accursed Cultists to try and take out that Flymer unit, which I should again be able to do easily. I move up my, I disembark some of my Legionnaires from the Rhino and move them onto the objective to give me some more objective control, so he cannot take that off me. I move up the Rhino for Containment, so within 9 and outside of my deployment. Then Some of these normal cultists, again, I'm putting them to screen out that home objective, so there's no chance he can drop down and take it and deny me defend stronghold. I have a little bit of a look just to see where it's worth getting those legionnaires out, maybe for a charge, try and help out that accursed blob fighting Scarbrand. Decide just to keep them in reserve for now. And then I have to have a little bit of a shuffle with these cultists to achieve my second containment, because I need to be outside my deployment and 1 inch away from the Greater Demon. So after a rather ineffective shooting phase, we move into the charges. So accursed cultists charging the flamers. Should be able to easily wipe those guys, and I believe that is all my charges, because I didn't want to commit any more forces at this point. I felt like the Great Unclean One was tied up with the accursed Scarbrand. If I could keep him there for another turn, that'd be great, and then those flamers should be gone. So predictably, the flamers they disappear. The accursed cultists consolidate back onto that objective just to get them a little bit more movement. And then the rest of the combat phase is rather uneventful. Scarbrand takes out some accursed cultists. The accursed do a bit of damage back to Scarbrand. And then that blob and the Grand Clean One, just a little bit of damage to each other. Annoyingly, I could not take out the Screamer, so that remained in place. So at the start of Terrence's turn 3, he draws Secure No Man's Land, which is nice and easy, and Storm Hostile Objective, which is okay. So far the scores were, Terrence scored 8 in his primer on turn 2, 2 for engage, 6 for containment, and 3 for overwhelming force, giving him a total of 19 points. I had scored 12 on my primary, because I had 3 objectives. 2 for no prisoners, 3 for sabotage, 6 for containment, and 3 for defend stronghold, which will be coming up at the end of this turn. That put me ahead by 17, 23, be 26. So I had a little bit of a lead at this point. Terrence did a little bit of battle shock, nothing significant happened. He then moved up his flamers and his pink horrors and that lone screamer. He also moved his Bloodthirster ready to help out the Great Unclean One. The Blood Crushers also decided to get back into the action at this point too. So at this point, I decided to use Rapid Ingress with the Rhino and brought it into his backfield that contained 2 units of 5 Legionnaires in a Rhino. Terrence did a little bit of shooting at the cultists and they very quickly disappeared. Pink Horrors and the Great Demon Zinch, I believe, shot at them, so they didn't really have much of a chance. The good thing is now, turn 3, I'm ahead on points, and I've also got a Rhino full of Legionnaires in Terrence's backfield, ready to take his home objective on my turn 3. Terrence did a few more little bits of shooting at those cultists in the middle. Also forgot to mention that the Legionnaires on the left-hand side of that objective are also terraforming the objective, which would give me 2 points in primary, regardless of who controls the objective. Yep, those cultists in the middle did not last very long with the Greater Demon shooting at them. Then as we move into the combat phase, Terrence has his Great Unclean One, his Bloodthirster, Scarbrand, his Blood Crushers, and the remaining Screamers of Zinch in combat. So he goes on to wipe out those remaining accursed cultists. The positive for me is I do still have the full blob of course on the left. They haven't used their ability yet, so they can still do advance and charge, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. I still have my Rhino in Terrence's backfield with 2 lots of Legionnaires, and I still have 3 units of Chosen and another unit of Legionnaires in those Rhinos. So even though he's going to go on and all them squads are going to be cleared, I still had a lot of stuff which I could hit back with, whereas Terrence had committed most of his force into the middle. I was ahead on points, and also I was about to take his home objective. So moving into my turn 3, I drew Extend Battle Lines and Cleanse, which again are quite nice. Easy secondaries to achieve. So I'm already on the objective on the left hand side, so that's a nice cleanse target, and it also doubles up as Extend Battle Lines. So what I started to do is I took my Legionnaires out of my Rhino over in the backfield by Terrence's home objective. I tried to move the Rhino into better position to try and charge, but I couldn't really get it anywhere due to engagement range. I then started to move up some of my Legionnaires out of my Rhino. So I think I had 1 unit of Legionnaires in there and 1 unit of Chosen, or they may have been in the other Rhino, I do forget. So I obviously advanced them out of the Rhino, and then the next unit I advanced towards the combat in the centre. So yes, these are Legionnaires because I've rolled to advance them out. And then my third unit of Legionnaires are also in that Rhino. They get a large advance. So I've now got 3 units of Chosen, all streaming up. Here come my Accursed Cultists as well. They've advanced, using their once per game ability, advance to charge, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, which I was hoping potentially could put a chunk into that, take a chunk out of that Great and Clean one. I then put my Legionnaires back into my Rhino just so they could charge out potentially. So one of the stratagems that Renegade Raiders has is Ruinous Raid, where if you come out of a Rhino and charge a unit on an objective, you can, for 1 CP, re-roll all hits and all wounds, which can be pretty devastating. Another nice one is if the opponent's on the objective, you get full precision from the unit. That's also pretty good. I believe I used that in the last game to good effect. So now we are doing a little bit of shooting. So at the back, I am shooting into the Plague Bearers who are on the home objective, and then I think the others are just trying to take out some more damage off the Greater Demons, and then potentially that Chosen is trying to take out the Screamers. Yet the Chosen, I believe they do enough damage to take out the Screamers. But again, my shooting isn't going to be that effective because I'm more of a combat army. So this is a big combat phase for me now. I've saved myself 2 CP, so potentially I've got a command reroll in there for the Accursed unit, which I think had like a 6-inch charge coming up, and then I've also saved 1 CP for Ruinous Raid against the Bloodthirster if I need it. So if I'd failed that charge there, it would have dampened my plans really, because I don't think the 3 units of Chosen would have been able to do enough damage to the Greater Demons. The Chosen all make their charges, it's just a matter of where they can fit in. So I'll get a nice big charge there, so I can fit both units Chosen in and also my Accursed. That unit of Chosen are charging into the Blood Crushers and the Screamer. I believe I was trying not to get into combat with Scarborough, so remaining an inch out, and then obviously the 2 Legionnaires are charging into those Plague Bearers to kill those Plague Bearers and take that home objective. It's pretty big taking your opponent's home objective due to some secondaries cannot be achieved if you do not hold your home objective. Also, some of the primaries you score more on if you hold your home objective, and also sometimes when it's the mission where you have to burn objectives, you get more points for burning the home objective. So it's a pretty good move that I do try virtually every game that I play. It's a little bit more limited with a Rhino. It's easier with a deep striking unit. So as you can see, not a lot has changed. The Blood Crushers killed a few of my Chosen, and I killed that Screamer, and then I just took some wounds off the Great Unclean one. I do now control that central objective, as I have a few cultists on there left over from the Dark Commune, and I've also got some Chosen on there, and his Great Unclean one is not actually touching onto the objective, which is pretty unfortunate, but I did try and block him out with my original unit of Accursed Cultists. So as we move into Terrence's turn 4, he draws Cleanse, and behind enemy lines Cleanse is going to be easy for him, as he's got the Pink Horrors still on that objective, which I have just kind of ignored all game, mainly because the Pink Horrors are a bit of a nightmare when they split. If you don't wipe the unit in one phase, they will split. It just makes it more difficult for you to take them off because you get more models on there. And then behind enemy lines, he maybe could have got with his Greater Demons, but at this point in the game, he couldn't really afford to use them for actions. He had to try and kill some of my stuff. So he moves Scarbrand back to deal with the Legionnaires on the home objective, and also the Greater Demon of Tzeentch. He charges Bloodthirster into my Chosen, and his Blood Crushers are tied up with my Chosen. So shooting phase, Terrence manages to kill majority of my Legion. I think he wipes the whole of the one squad. And then with Scarbrand, he charges in and wipes out the second squad, which is understandable, but he's used 2 Greater Demons to retake his home objective, which stops him contesting that central objective, which I'm trying to control now. In combat, because it is Terrence's turn, I get to activate first after the units that have charged and fought first. So after his Bloodthirster does a little bit of damage to my Chosen, obviously Scarbrand absolutely wrecks those Legionnaires. My Accursed Cultists finally managed to kill the Great Unclean one, which is pretty big. Yeah, that was a good moment. So coming up to the start of my turn 4, once my primary went on, my 10 primary, from holding 2 objectives and terraforming, I was about 5 points ahead of Terrence, so still in a good position. I now draw behind enemy lines and area denial. I've already got behind enemy lines with 1 unit due to the Rhino sitting there. And area denial is a bit of a big ask, as I've got to clear a Bloodthirster, but the Bloodthirster is fairly wounded at this point. So I start setting up my units to take out that Bloodthirster. So I move the Chosen out of the way so that the big unit of Accursed Cultists can get a nice clear charge. I'm having a little look, so I've got my Legionnaires in there, so they need to come out now because it's getting close to crunch time. So they come out of the Rhino, and I've still got a unit of Cultists on my home objective and a unit of Cultists just hanging out with Cypher in that central building. So did a little bit of shooting at the Bloodthirster to chip him down a little bit. I also moved my Rhino onto the home objective. Obviously it makes a easier charge for Scarbrand, but it also means that he can't just move Scarbrand off, because I will now retake that home objective, so Scarbrand has to sit there and babysit his home objective for his final turn. I've made some charges. I charged in my Chosen and my Curse Blob into the Bloodthirster, and I believe I failed my charge with the Legionnaires. So I killed the Bloodthirster in close combat with my Cursed unit, and I think he gets 6 on his Deadly Demise, and takes out a fair few of my cultists and some of my chosen that there. It looks like I forgot to roll my Feel No Pains, but oh well. And then I consolidate onto that objective to make it difficult for Terrence to take it off me again. Start of turn 5, Terrence draws Call the Horde, which is achievable for him, and extend battle lines. So at the end of my turn, Terrence picked up Scarbrand, so he could drop him down in his reinforcement step. He moved his Great Demon of Zinch, take that home objective back and blast the Rhino. He moved his Flamers close to me and he dropped Scarbrand in for a big charge onto my accursed cultists. So Terrence does a little bit of shooting onto the accursed cultists because obviously needs to get Call the Horde. Does a little bit of damage to some of them, and obviously that Rhino doesn't stand much of a chance against the Great Demon of Zinch as it was dropping down all game and just taking out a unit at will. So Terrence charges in with Scarbrand and the remaining 2 Blood Crushers. He goes on to wipe out the accursed cultist unit, scoring himself 5, Call the Horde, and extends his battle lines, which he had anyway with the pinks. So now my turn 5, I draw recover assets and overwhelming force. So recover assets, I've got units, I've got the Rhino in no man's, I've got the cultists there as well, and I've got my cultists in my home objective. So I've got places I can recover assets, so that's no problem. So I'll recover assets for 3 points there into section of the board. And overwhelming force, all I need to do is kill that Blood Crusher. I've moved my Legionnaires up onto that objective so that I out OC Terrence with his Blood Crusher because my points were primary. I scored at the end of the battle on this one, so that means if I can kill that Blood Crusher, I will score overwhelming force, recover assets, and I'll score a big 14 on the primary, which I do, which ends the game at 72-93 to me. So this was the first win of the 3 games. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see how game 2 goes, I'll have this video up shortly. I'd like to say a big thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again here at Boltgun Tactics.